Left foot hard on the brake, flooring it with the right, race start, release brake to start. Wow. Aggressive start, aggressive gear shift, There's 60. It's really not amazingly fast in a straight line. There's 80, and there we go. And then trying the brakes, that feels pretty good. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. Welcome here to Northern Colorado, and welcome to the 2021 Mercedes A35 AMG, also known as the entry-level model for AMG. In this video, we're gonna go on a super in-depth tour of this car, mostly focusing on driving dynamics in the city, on the highway, and of course in the mountains. We're gonna run it through an MPG test. I'm gonna take you on a full tour of the car. This will be sort of our new full review format. So it'll be broken up into sections. We're gonna first start with a full tour of the car. So let's go on a little design walk around, talk about pricing, performance, all of these on paper statistics. Then we'll get it out on the road and drive it. This is the 2021 Mercedes A35 AMG. It is, again, the entry-level model of AMG. In Europe, you can actually get an A45 and also a hatchback version. So for me, I'd love the A45 hatchback AMG. That'd be a real spicy machine, of course. Rain's coming in, so we're gonna get drenched out here, but we gotta film the review. Yeah, the hatchback's pretty neat. This one, though, I'll pop the hood to show you under the hood. The heart of every AMG is, of course, the engine. And this one is the 2-liter, 4-cylinder power plant that makes 302 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. Here it is. Looks nice, says AMG. It's got the red. I believe it's the same essential package as the 45, just with a little bit of different tune, maybe some hardware differences between the two. Nothing super major. It's mated to a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. They call it the speed shift. So we're gonna try that out, of course, especially around town. We always play around with dual clutch transmission tuning and things like this. So that's gonna be quite interesting to see. It also has a 4MATIC system, but different than the other AMGs in the lineup, this is primarily a front-wheel drive based 4MATIC system. So under normal driving conditions, once you're moving, it's pretty much front-wheel drive until the front wheels slip, and then it can send up to 50% of the power to the back. That doesn't seem very performance-y, does it? So we'll have to see how this performs in a back road. It's actually a good thing that it's raining out, because I kind of want to see if we can slide the car around under power, so we'll try that out for sure. In terms of color, this one's blue on the exterior with navy gray and black on the inside. I'll take you there in a second. But up front, just to show you some of the design details, the A-Class looks amazing. LED headlights around. There's a bee on that headlight. He's hitched a ride. This particular one's very mildly spec. Base price around $45,000. This one's about $52,000 as tested. It doesn't have adaptive cruise control because it has a physical plastic star that's quite rattly here. And if you had adaptive cruise control, your little radar cone would go behind here. It would be a flat surface. But I love this, of course, brushed looking material up front. Down here on the splitter, it looks good. Overall, the car is a really good looking car. I think far surpassing CLA in terms of design. This is also sold alongside the CLA, which is considered a coupe of the A-Class. So it's more, I guess, I don't know how to describe the differences. They kind of compete with each other internally, if you will. I would go for A-Class over CLA. In the US market, though, you can get only the 45 AMG in the CLA. You cannot get it here in the A-Class. We're, of course, going to do fuel economy testing, so this one requires premium fuel, minimum octane 91. We will be doing that. Interesting, this is kind of funny, too. I'll show you this really quick. See this extra little bubble in here? This is just because in certain markets, not the US, you can get a diesel A-Class, and that's where you'd put your AdBlue or your diesel exhaust fluid. Come around the back because this looks amazing back here. Best angle for the car is the rear. You get this beautiful running light that kind of goes out into this Y shape. These exhaust tips, come on in here and take a look at this. They look really neat and meaty. You get this plastic bits, real exhaust tips. Gotta love that. That looks really nice. Of course, it says A35 AMG. Is it a real AMG? Well, we're gonna drive and find out. On my particular car, if I was to own one of these, I would debadge it so no one would know, but that's just me. Trunk space, huge. Mercedes always has big trunks, no exception here. You can also fold the seats down by unlatching them here in the back, and then I can just pull this seat down. So stay back there, and you can see, let me put this headrest down real quick, if it will go down. It doesn't, but it pops out. So almost completely flat, but a little bit of an up angle here. Nothing major. Let me pop this headrest back in. There we go, all the way down, seatbelt out. That's pretty useful and convenient. I also see roof rack mounting points here on the roof, so come take a look around this side here. You can see these are so you can mount your crossbars into. Really large sunroof as well. You can see that most of the, I'd say 60% of the roof, maybe 70% is glass. This bit's painted in body color. I think this would look good if it was black, then you would have an entirely black roof blending in with the glass. That might be the way to do it. Traditional AMG has the chrome here on the door handles. I never understood why Mercedes does this. I always thought black was more of a sporty option to black out all the trim, but you know, I guess this is the way they've done it. We have traditional 5-spoke wheels on this car, and they're actually on, get this, Michelin snow tires. It's not that cold out yet, but I guess Mercedes went out of their way. Let's see what they are. Yeah, they're the 18s all around, 18 by 8.5 wheels, I believe. So tire size on this are 235/40 18s. That's a pretty small wheel, but I have to say it looks really well here. You know, the 2 Series BMW also came on factory 18-inch wheels. And that was like the sporty option. It looked great. This for sure is the right size wheel for the car. And that's sort of the exterior design. It's the smallest sedan you can get in the Mercedes lineup. The traditional one's the A220 here in the US, same size engine, just detuned. This one, of course, has the hot tune on it with the AMG stuff. Let's take a look at the inside. I'm going to try the back seat room. So we'll come around this way to the driver. I have the driver's seat positioned where I would sit. I'm 6'1". By the way, door feels super solid, really nice. Door handles in general with Mercedes, they have quite a long pull. So come on in and take a look at this. If I keep the door closed, you can see just how far out this thing comes. That's a really good distance. Like that a lot. That feels premium. Jumping in the back seat here. I mean, I can do it in a pinch, but it's not that comfortable. There is one USB-C port back here. The tiniest little air vents. Come on in and hand me the camera. I'll show this. The tiniest little air vents here in the back. That's so funny. So open, close, and you can move them around. Love that. Lock and unlock functionality, but listen to this. That's just pulling a little bit. Yeah, just feels a little bit chintzy back here. There is, of course, a center armrest with the traditional pop-out cup holders. That's done quite nicely. And the interior styling is absolutely gorgeous on this car. You have this really nice optional AMG sport wheel. You have MBUX in the nav system, as well as in the driver instrument cluster. The metal pedals, your controls down here in the center. We'll go through that when we drive the car. But overall, really open, switching to wide view experience here with the sunroof being glass. Really doesn't get much better on inside of a small compact car. I definitely prefer the interior to the Audi S3, for example. Switching cameras again. And so that becomes the big question. This is going to have to go head-to-head in our market with the S3, which we recently just reviewed. I haven't had a chance to drive it, but my colleague Brandon drove it here on this channel. And while my perception is this is a slightly larger car, only by a little bit, the S3 sounded like a little bit more of a enthusiast vehicle, if you will. Then, of course, we'll have the RS3 coming, which is another step above this class. That's going to have 5-cylinder drifting mode, and that's going to be kind of the stuff you want, isn't it? Well, we'll see. Let's jump in the car, go for a ride. We'll drive it around town first, then we'll turn it up to 11, crank it up a mountain road, and see how this drivetrain performance stuff works, all the different driving modes. There's a ton. And then we'll go on the highway and test its fuel economy. And now you join me inside of the A35. You can see this gorgeous interior, absolutely lovely MBUX here on the right. We've reviewed many Mercedes with MBUX and have gone very in-depth with them, so nothing really different. This one's just being, you know, being the base car, doesn't have the massaging seats or crazy stuff. But I can pull up, for example, the AMG Performance app here on the right screen. And this is where we can get vehicle acceleration and brake position data, our consumption data, as well as sort of boost and temperatures. So the transmission oil temp's just a little bit cold, but the engine oil temp is right where we need to be, and the trans oil temp will warm up here momentarily. Right now I have the car in hold functionality, which happens when you're in drive and you just push the brake pedal down, pretty hard and quickly, it'll go to a hold function, and that's where we are. So let's hit the accelerator pedal. Look at that dual clutch tuning, revving up quite high, and then it pulls away. That was quite smooth. Now, I will say, driving this car around for this week, this dual clutch has been really the hottest topic for me of smoothness and calibration. When I drive around predictably, which is how I imagine most people to actually drive, it's fine. It does a good job of getting into first gear, and it's relatively smooth. I'm just going to stop here on the right side and show you what I mean by this. So, stopped here. Now we're just going to pull away gently, consistent throttle pressure. See how the car does it. So 1500 RPM, grabs the clutch, and it's good to go. And it's probably a wet clutch, I imagine, so it doesn't really fry anything. Now here's an example of when it's not so smooth, and this is what I've been playing around with quite a bit, because sometimes I take quick starts, sometimes slow starts, and the car gets all pretty confused. So pulling away, look at this, 2500 RPM, get all confused. So that's just me tapping the accelerator pedal, and it's not sure when to grab, and that's totally normal. But I will say this just revs way higher than most any other dual clutch system I've tried. Also, going into reverse, especially if you have to go up a hill, it like really revs up. So here we go, into reverse. Watch this, off the brake, and it just goes, it goes rev, and then it grabs the clutch, and it's like, oh, this is just like someone who doesn't, look at that, 3000 RPM for a hard start. Yeah, you can confuse it, but what's nice about this is if you just drive predictably around town, no problem. It's just the hard starts. If you're an aggressive driver, then it kind of gets confused. Now, thankfully, putting it in Sport and Sport Plus will help to tell the car what type of driving you're expecting to be doing with it. And here we go. This guy will get out of our way. We can just get through the crazy intersection. And this is a little bit more predictable. It gets on the clutch a little bit more. It does rev a little bit higher off the start with Sport and Sport Plus mode, but overall, pretty good, I have to say. Let's go back to comfort, because that's how you're going to commute in this thing for the most part. We'll go through the drive modes when we hit the canyons, but right now everything's just in key up comfort mode settings. And I have to say, gear shifts on the fly are phenomenally smooth. This thing is great to drive around the city. Once you get over the dual clutch thing and you learn to just foot in, wait for it to kind of catch up and link off the start, it's so good. And it's actually relatively quiet, because this one has the AMG performance exhaust from the factory. It actually has a little flap in there, so in drive like we are now, you barely even hear it. Steering ratio is nice and not so quick. It's comfortable. I had the suspension backed off into comfort. It has adaptive dampers. It's the right size. At nighttime, the ambient lighting is absolutely gorgeous. And I have to say, I'm just so impressed with driving this car around the city at a comfortable, speed limit pace. It's great to just get around. Now, it does take a while for the engine oil to warm up, and that's just the nature of a little 2-liter engine in colder starts in the morning. But now I've driven it a couple times today. It's sort of just up to operating temperature, and I wouldn't really necessarily feel comfortable pushing this car hard on a cold engine. I'm sure it's fine and it's designed to do so, but 302 horsepower from a little 2-liter, well, I think I'll just let it warm up a little bit. Anyway, driving around the city, doing your daily commuting, cruising around like this, the brake pedal is wonderful. Of course, it's a full hydraulic system. It's very predictable, easy to use, not super grabby. The steering wheel itself is lovely. I would 100% get this AMG performance wheel option. Quite a large wheel for a small car, but I like it. And overall, very good seats, good suspension tuning, good daily driver, I have to say. Let's see what happens now. This is the real interesting bit when we drive it hard, because this is really no different than an A220 in my experience driving around town. Maybe a little bit firmer, maybe a little bit more responsive, but not by much. You're not giving up daily drivability going with the A35, but let's see what you gain when we go up into the hills. Welcome to the base of one of my favorite roads. We're going to start with a launch. So I'm going to go Sport Plus mode. Everything's up to temperature. Left foot hard on the brake, flooring it with the right. Race start, release brake to start. Wow. Aggressive start, aggressive gear shift, aggressive gear shift. There's 60. It's really not amazingly fast in a straight line. There's 80, and there we go. And then trying the brakes, that feels pretty good. So overall, I have to say, That sounds really good. The shifts are unbelievably crisp. Now I'm going to select some buttons down here. So manual mode, traction control, sport handling, and then ESP off. I think we're going to put the damper in comfort because it's a pretty bumpy road. So we'll start in comfort damper. It still feels a little soft. These snow tires aren't helping anything. It's hard to do a performance evaluation, of course, on snow tires. But let's just go for a drive, feel out the car. I haven't driven it hard yet. The steering's very not communicative off-center. And you need a lot of steering angle on this thing. But foot down. It certainly has the power. The brakes are certainly there as well. It sounds really good. Listen to this. Holds at the rev limiter. That's nice. You heard it bog down at the limiter, upshift, there it went. Oh, nice crackles out the exhaust on the downshift as well. Sorry for the noise in this car. Nice crack on the upshift. Man, the noises are fun and crackly and poppy out the exhaust. I like that quite a bit. And the noises aren't too aggressive, I have to say. Engine feels great in this mid-range. This 4 to 5,500 range feels good. Great torque around here. Very responsive. Grabbing downshift super smooth here in Sport Plus mode. Oh, this is really fun actually. So really, I think the only thing I'm not loving so much is how much lock I have to put into steering. Upshift mid-corner loaded up, felt great. Here we are. Drive that torque up. Yeah, it doesn't really make much sense to rev it much past 6. I think peak power is at 5,900. But yeah, this thing is balanced. Even for these snow tires, which, yeah, really detract from the experience. You can see it's pretty squishy. Look, on the power, very neutral. It's not oversteering, but it sends enough power to the back where you can really use the power to rotate or just neutralize it. It's not understeery like I was expecting. And big power out. It's not scary fast. You can get in this thing and absolutely rip if you're just a general driver, and you really won't scare yourself. It's a great car, I would say, for right off the bat, for like a driving school or even someone that's new to performance cars, because it does demand respect. You can certainly get yourself into situations with this car, no question, but it's pretty tame when you go crazy hard. Yeah, wow, it's cool. I like it a lot. And that race start was really aggressive too. That was neat. Yeah, 3,000 RPM, 3,500. It really rocks on the power. It loves to stay between 4 and 6 though, and it's got great gearing for a back road like this. Big power on the exit. Here we go. Early upshift, staying flat. Feels so nice. Wow, what a really fantastic engine and transmission calibration. I actually wasn't expecting it to be that good. What we'll do is I'll play around with it a little bit more on a back road, kind of feel it out. Kind of want to see what it's like in full damper. So now damper's in full stiff, I believe. Yeah, we got 2 lights on the damper. Love the downshifts in Sport Plus. It's just rum. This thing sounds great, healthy, sweet little 4-cylinder. It's so easy to drive. Part of that is down to the soft winter tire compound that we're on. The fact that it's pretty squishy, to be honest. So you can kind of do this with the car, and it's just a lot of tire flex. I really would be so curious to see how this car handles with some more aggressive rubber. I bet it wouldn't be as neutral. I bet it would understeer a little bit more. Let's see. Going in through the tight section, hit second gear, high revs, big power out. Yeah, really nice balance on corner exit. Wow, I did not expect it to be this good. Love it. And when you come into a corner off throttle and get the weight into it, yeah, that really brings the rear end around a little bit. What a great setup. Great setup for a little back road blaster. Man, if only we could get the A45 hatchback here. Anyway, let's get up to the top of the road where it gets real crazy, and that's where we will see how it handles the extreme mountain pass section. Then, of course, we're going to head to the highway. Well, now we're getting to the top section of the road, which I love, the final bit of mountain climb where we can really use this car's turbocharged engine performance to help with high altitude compensation, of course. I have to say, I'm loving actually with this snow tire, really soft tire, the damper in full stiff. It's not too aggressive like I was expecting it to be. This engine's smooth at wide open throttle. Just pulls nicely throughout the range. Gives me downshifts nicely too. Bump here. Yeah, that handled it nicely. That's maybe I'd back it off the damper just for that one hard section there, but wow, brakes feel pretty good. Really the main concern again is just the steering isn't unbelievably sharp. You really need quite a bit of angle. Ooh, the sun's even coming out up here. Nice. Great shifting characteristics. Great brake initial tip-in. Now that they have some heat into them, they feel pretty strong. Really like that. This thing's like a little pocket rocket, as they say. I think just tighten up the steering, try the brakes here. Yeah, way too much ABS intervention there, and that could just be the snow tire too being really soft, which it's not the right tire for this car. An impressive snow tire, don't get me wrong, but not really built for absolutely shredding on the limit. We'll take it easy up here because sometimes there are animals and I don't want to scare them. So we'll just kind of cruise up. Yep, the horses are out nicely, and then we'll shred the mountain pass section. Wow, a lot of leaf loss up here. I would say the leaves are all gone by now. Totally different than at the bottom of the hill where it's full foliage mode. We actually already even have like some salt on the roads. Must have got some snow up here. It's warm now though, so let's see how this thing handles. Slow in for the salty things and big power. Yeah, so no chance of power on rotation, but it's way less front wheel drivey than I was expecting. You know, hearing the way this 4MATIC system works in this particular car, I expected a lot more understeer, and there's just not. It's really fun actually. This has got to be one of the best suited cars for a canyon blast. On like the tail of the Dragon, this thing would be a blast. I absolutely am blown away and impressed by the level of capability of this car. This is not the 45, which we don't get in the US, but it's the 35, and it's real sharp. We'll let it cool down. Temperatures are looking good. We've had other Mercedes climb this road. Granted, I was probably a little bit harder on them because I took it easy in the midsection. But we got the E-Class into the red, the E53. That was really fun on a back road. I actually kind of want to go run the road again. That was great. And I love this little 4-cylinder. This is a great engine. Just screams up top and cracks the shifts. Definitely worth giving up the in-town sort of clunkiness of the dual clutch for this great shifting performance up here in performance driving. This is an awesome car, and for 45 grand, I keep coming back to that. This is so much car for 45 grand. I think, you know, like a Mini Countryman JCW is 50 by the time you put some options on it. This is a lot more car than that, and yeah, certainly a lot more performance cred. So there you have it. Certainly back road tuned, and definitely I think deserving of the AMG badge. This car is just rowdy enough where on the right tires this thing would just shred up a back road. Really my only complaint, again, just the steering tip-in ratio. And now it's the highway and MPG testing portion. This is not a great scenario. It's unbelievably windy out here. We're talking 30+ mph winds. I've actually waited and even kept this car longer than I'm supposed to have it, usually a week. This is a week and 2 days, so I could hopefully get a good test to you for MPG because the wind affects it, and well, the car has to go back. It's been windy and crazy weather every day. We're gonna jump in the car, I'll run through the testing procedures, and I'll explain why maybe this MPG test needs a little asterisk. Joined here by Alyssa. Thanks for joining on the MPG test. This is an interesting one. So I always wait when I have a car for a week, that's typically what journalists get, to test the car in the least windy day, the best conditions to get the most accurate EV range test and MPG test for combustion vehicles. I've waited all week and we've had insane wind, and I think unfortunately this is actually the worst wind we've had.
Yeah.
But we got to do the test. It's part of the video. So take this with a grain of salt. Sometimes wind can really help your results if you get a ton of tailwind. It can really hurt the results if you get a ton of headwind. Ideally, zero wind. We don't live in a vacuum. We live in the real world. So here's how the range or the MPG tests work. I've filled up the tank completely full with 91. I then let it sit for 30 seconds and then go wide open on the handle again, and that's our starting point. Then we leave here in northern Colorado, go up into Wyoming, make a loop, and come back here. The loop is important, especially on windy days like this, because if we have a headwind on the way up, we get a tailwind on the way back. Unfortunately, we kind of have a side wind today, so it's just going to hurt us both ways. So, I don't know how much to add in terms of correction value. We don't do that. We'll just show you what it is. The tires are set to manufacturer suggested. This car is on winter tires, though. Mercedes has switched over their fleet here in Colorado to winter tires. And so that will play a role, of course, but they're set at manufacturer pressures cold. Then we'll come back here. We'll take a look at what the car says we got for MPG on the internal screens. Then we'll also fill up the tank again and see what the pump says, and we'll average out that result because sometimes both are a little bit off. I've already checked to make sure that our speed is totally accurate at 70 miles per hour indicated, is 70 miles per hour GPS accurate, and we'll just do 70 miles an hour up the highway into Wyoming, right back here, and then calculate the results.
Sounds fun.
Thanks for joining.
Yep.
I'm going to reset our consumption here right now. So I'm hitting this. So this will be from start. So I think that's already reset. Let's go down from start here. Reset values. Yes. So that's the one we're going to use. The car is still currently off. In terms of drive modes, some Mercedes have a efficient mode. This car doesn't, probably because it's an AMG. So we're just going to drive in comfort, drive, and set the cruise control at 70 miles an hour. So I think everyone's kind of out of our way. We have a clean shot out. This is how we always do it. Start button, let it come alive, right into drive, and pull away. And now we're just going to gently merge up onto the highway. We're going to try and limit a ton of boost on the on-ramps. We do one here and then one at exit 7 up in Wyoming and Cheyenne. And yeah, the wind here, well, this is pretty crazy. I also want to mention when I'm unwinding the steering wheel in situations like this, I get this very odd chatter binding feel in the steering rack, and it's happening more, I think, as I'm spending time with the car. I don't know if it's something where like the engine doesn't have enough power to run the electric power steering pump. It kind of feels like it's chattering, or it could be the steering rack chattering. Never quite experienced that too badly. I will say though, that's really the only major issue I have with the around town steering. On the back road, of course, you saw I wish it had a quicker ratio. So now we're going to come to a stop. Auto start stop should kick on and turn the engine off. The auto start stop system's unbelievably smooth. There we go. I have the brake in auto hold. I'm going to touch the accelerator pedal. Car turns on. We pull away instantly. Zero level of intrusiveness there. That's really comfortable. Really a nice system. So here we go, merging onto the highway. We're going to just carry a little bit of speed through this corner, merging up nicely. And we need to watch out for trucks, because with this much side wind, Alyssa can attest to this, especially out here in Colorado and Wyoming, they'll flip over, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, real fast.
Yeah, we see this quite a bit on this section of road, and they actually close down the road at times when it gets too windy. So now we're just merging up to 70. I'm going to turn cruise control on. We're going to lock it in at 70 miles an hour right there, and then we kind of just sit right here at 70 until we get back to the turnaround point. We've been dodging tumbleweeds. There's one there, and take a look at this. This truck has been blown off the road. Oh no, a Goodyear truck. We love the guys at Goodyear, and oh, that thing took a hit on the front, totally wasted the front suspension. Gnarly winds, folks. This is just this stretch of road. I'm sure we'll see more. Another tumbleweed right here. Living out in the Midwest, it's pretty crazy. The high desert. And yeah, I gotta say, in terms of driving this, take a look at the tumbleweeds coming across the road up here. In terms of driving the A35, oh, we just smashed one. There goes one on the right. And yeah, so in terms of driving the A35, it's very quiet and comfortable for an A-class. This is what's blowing me away. I'm sure it's the same as A220. We're just dodging tumbleweeds in this review. Look, even with the wind, it tracks pretty much dead straight. This car has no driver assistance functionality in terms of adaptive cruise control or lane centering or lane departure. It just does forward collision warning, camera-based. No radar. It is optionally available. This car just doesn't have it. And I have to say, for a highway cruiser, I can put the seat back a little bit. It gets nice and low. I can eat up miles in this car, drive it across the country. It's quiet. I don't hear really the engine at all. At 70 miles an hour, we're turning 2,100 RPM or so, and that's just like a great middle ground. Man, I kind of wish this car had PPF, because we are just crushing these tumbleweeds coming across the road. A whole bunch of them. Insanely gusty, but yeah, I'm curious to see what the results will be for the MPG. If they're good in these conditions, that would be amazing. Crazy. This truck just put his hazards on the right. I think he's going to be pulling off. Yeah, gnarly conditions. We are just approaching our turnaround spot, so I'm going to merge into the right lane. Pretty rough section of pavement, and it's very quiet. I mean, the wind noise is insane, but we just passed a sign that said 45-mile-an-hour gusts. So we're just coming off of 70 miles an hour right here. We always get a little bit worse MPG on the way up here because we gain slight elevation, but then we get to turn around and go back. As you guys know, I use this particular turnaround. It's an exact 57.5-mile loop, because as long as there are no cars coming, which there are, we can usually just scoot right through here without any issues. So look to the right, you'll see a couple cars coming here, and then once this truck is done, now we can pull out forwards. So there's that dual clutch grabbing the gear, and we're just gonna gently merge up. We sat at 70 the entire way. If there was no wind, it would be the perfect test, but the wind is definitely there. We're just gonna squeeze around this truck here, and onto the highway we go. Moderate acceleration, of course. It's really windy out here. There's tumbleweeds and trucks, and yeah, people are having a tough time. By the way, this place right here is where we get our RV washed. What's it called? Blue Ribbon Truck Wash, I think. They do like RVs and sprinter vans, so that's where we take it up here in Cheyenne. So merging up, want to hit about 70 miles an hour by the time we reach the end of this on-ramp is what I typically do. So we have it set at 70 now, merging up the speed. And now we head back to Colorado, and we'll look at the results. Well, with the dust still blowing across, we are finishing off our loop here. So I'm pulling it off 70 miles an hour, right turn signal on. I don't think I mentioned what I set the climate control to, just 75 on auto. Normally I go between 68 and 72, but on this car, that was like blasting the AC. So 75 just felt like a natural temperature, and that's what I went with here. A little bit of side wind both ways, but at least according to the calculations here, it is pretty efficient. We'll run the numbers because this loop, Google Maps, and it's 57.5 miles round trip. And auto stop kicking in wonderfully there. And this car is showing 59 miles traveled. I don't know why that's the case. Sometimes it's always a little bit, some cars show under, some cars over. That's why we look at the pump values and look at the actual distance as well as the internal MPG calculation. Either way, we're talking a few percent difference, but considering the wind, initial indications show an unbelievably efficient package, especially while considering, how great this thing is when you rip on it. Now, these little turbo 4-cylinders, when you drive them hard, they burn a lot of fuel. As you know, just dump, when it has a ton of boost, you got to dump a ton of fuel. But let's pull into the Come and Go gas station. Everyone always laughs when we do our fueling test here. We'll go to the same pump we started with, and we will fill it back up with premium. I'll fill it till it clicks, give it 30 seconds, and then I'll meet you back here in the car because it's crazy windy out. Engine off. See what it does. Well, we've just finished fueling. So the car says we've done 59 miles and we've gone 32.7 MPG. That's super impressive. Let me just inch back here so I can get the pump results. So the pump says, let's just do the calculations how I normally do them, which is 57.5 divided by 1.862 gallons used, same starting and ending temperature roughly, and this says about 31 mpg. So anywhere between about 30.8 and 32.7. That's impressive considering the winds, the high speed performance. Overall, I did not expect it to be that good. I bet on a non-windy day this thing would be, my rough estimate would be 35, 37 mpg, something like that. The wind really does affect it, and maybe not having the snow tires as well would help. This car really had a lot against it. So no question is this an efficient fuel saver. The only thing is you do have to put premium fuel in, which, you know, depending on when you watch this video, prices will always be different, of course. I also like how I can change drive modes right here on the steering wheel. These little switches feel pretty cheap, but lets me change mode, which is nice. Let's just go into Sport Plus. This thing's been sitting at the same RPM for a while. Manual transmission selected, damper and comfort. And we'll finish the video by ripping onto the highway. Here we go, full power. Man, this thing boogies when you get up it. And there you have it, the A35 AMG. Certainly a fun pocket rocket, I would say. Very good car for the price. Back into comfort mode, speed limit, cruise control. Let's think about this one, set at the speed limit. Great size car, great looking car, great performing car. And really the only thing that I don't love about it so much is if you do a lot of city commuting, well, I don't think this would be the right car for you. The dual clutch is a little clunky at low speeds, and it does, you know, obviously need engine warm-up time. I think an EV would be better for a daily commute, but if you have no place to charge and you want to go do mountain runs quite often and you head up into the hills and the canyons and want to have a rip, this is the car right here. It's the right size and it's really freaking fun, and I've really enjoyed my time with it, way more than I was expecting. And man, this thing moves that mid-range torque. So there you have it. Thanks so much for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. We appreciate you watching these. Hopefully this helps you in your buying decision for A35. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.